Morning, everyone. We're excited that you're all joining us. It's always great to have to start the day off. And I start the days at 10 a.m. Everyone that knows me knows I start my days at 10 a.m. Not at 8 in the morning. I start my days at 10 a.m. Like a
Okay.
true techie dork that I am, I work at night and I sleep in. There you
You're not
go.
alone, Lorena. You're not alone. So, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Women Business Leaders Council meeting. Thanks so much for joining us today. Again, we're just giving people a couple more minutes to migrate from the waiting room. As you make your way in, please mute yourself and switch your view from, oh, we're in webinar, so we don't need to do that. Um, to kick things off, I'm going to hand it to Lorena Mascara. Lorena, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Betty. Welcome, everyone. Again, my name is Lorena Mosquera, and I am the president and founder of LWNH Workflow Strategies, formerly of Paradigm. Paradigm and I have a great relationship, and if you need anything with marketing website strategy, please make sure you reach out to Rachel Durkin at Paradigm Marketing and Design. So again, as part of the Women's Business Leaders Council, which I have been honored to be one of the co-chairs for the last couple of years, it is my pleasure to always invite you here for today's event. We are so glad that you can make it to this month's Women's Business Leaders Council meeting. And just a quick reminder that we are recording the program. Not that everyone is going to be able to see each other's beautiful faces, but it is being recorded for training purposes. A big shout out to my fellow co-chairs, Bertia Chambers, founder and CEO of Epic Transformation, and Sally Jo O'Brien, director of coaching of the Human Emergence Group. I'd also like to thank our presenting partners, CGI and PSCNG, and New Jersey Community Colleges. Our meeting partners, HR for Small Businesses, and our event partners, Association Members Trust, Focus New Jersey Manufacturing Counts, NJBIA's HR Support, and New Jersey Business Magazine. And now I'm going to turn the program back over to Betty.
Thank you, Lorena. We at NJBIA are thrilled that this group continues to grow and thrive under the leadership of such an amazing team. For those of you who are new to BIA, we are the largest statewide business association in the country, representing New Jersey businesses and offering customer development opportunities, visibility through events, magazine ads, or our podcast and TV show, and helping you save money on stuff you probably feel like you spend way too much money on, like payroll, healthcare, 401k solution, HR support, and training. If you're interested in more information on us, I'll drop the website into the chat along with my contact information. Feel free to be in touch and we can get you whatever you need. And as an FYI, we've got information on our 2024 Masterclass in Leadership program, as well as our annual Women's Forum live on our website. I'll drop those links in the chat as well. And hopefully that'll be a place where you can continue to find networking opportunities and learn and grow. And now back to Lorena.
It is my pleasure now to introduce our speaker for this month, and this is Lindsay Vastola. Hopefully, pronounced that right for you. She's a personal leadership coach specializing in helping success-driven women prioritize their personal health and well-being so that they can elevate their work and life success. So, with that, I'm going to bring it on over to Lindsay. Lindsay, we'll keep an eye out on the Q&A, and obviously, we'll check in as soon as you are, ready for questions.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for having me. For those joining live, I know the irony of coming to something called work-life balance, or where we're talking about the challenges of work-life balance, is I know you who are watching, I know exactly what you're doing. You're probably answering emails. You're busy doing something else. And listen, I just want to, first of all, I hope to give you some really tangible takeaways today. I want you to look at this almost like a pattern interrupt. This is a technique I use with my clients and in my trainings. Is part of the reason why we are on the brink of burnout, or we have those days where we feel like we're completely depleted, is because we're doing the same grind. And anybody feel that, right? Like that we're on the hamster wheel. So I want to start with a story that I think was very timely for this. Yesterday, I was meeting with one of my clients. Her name is Risa. She is a chief marketing officer at a big education tech company. And our conversation yesterday, we meet week to week. And our conversation yesterday was, she's changing. Her schedule's changing. She's going back into the office more often versus from home. And she just felt off kilter with her cadence of her fitness routine and her eating and all those things. And so we spent the time really just redesigning her day, creating this new rhythm so that she can successfully set herself up, to do the things she needs to do. And she said, Lindsay, what I really appreciate about our conversations is this week we're talking about my workout program and my food. But last week, what we were talking about was what was keeping up at night was a conversation, a difficult conversation that she had to have with one of her team members that she was on the brink of letting go, and communication challenges. And that was what was keeping her up at night. And so I say that to illustrate that we often look at work and life in these silos, and as if they don't really interconnect. And that for her was in this real time, we can say, like, right now, today, I'm feeling off kilter because I'm not getting my movement in, I'm not taking care of my well-being. But last week, her well-being hinged on her ability to navigate a critical conversation with an employee. So I know most of us are probably challenged with very similar things. It's not only about exercise and food. It's not only about exercise or about our place, but how do we intersect these successfully? I was asked a few years ago to speak at a notable national finance company. And they said, Lindsay, would you come in and would you speak on how to eat healthier and, be more fit? I've spent 20 years in the fitness industry. Can you talk about that to our professionals? And I said, I'm going to be honest with you. After doing this for long enough, I've realized that I can give you a fitness plan and a meal plan and all the accountability that you need. But at the end of the day, it is not about the exercise. It's not about the food. There is so many things that we really need to take into play when it comes to work life, shouldering the challenges. So I want to start with this question. I hope those of you who are live will jump in here and just let me know, when you think of work-life balance, just throw in the chat, what's the first feeling or the thought, the word that you would fill in the blank here? So work-life balance is challenging, difficult, hard, a struggle. What's the first thing that comes to mind? Difficult to maintain. Good. And you can do it just to me, or you can do it to everyone for your chats. Difficult. Feels like a roller coaster. Always feels like I can never get it. Yep. Okay, awesome. So here's the thing, when we look at someone like Risa, she is in the sandwich generation. She's caring for aging parents. She has a husband who requires some medical assistance. She has 2 older children, one that lives in the house still and one that lives across the country. And she's challenged by, when she came to me, she said, Lindsay, I just want to feel more in control and I want to feel lighter. And I don't want to feel like I'm a smart woman. Why can't I figure this out? And for her, work-life balance seemed like this ghost that she was constantly challenging and being or chasing, and she wasn't able to successfully do it. And here's the thing that we've been told about work-life balance, that it's somehow as simple as eat less and exercise more, or stress less and meditate more, right? Like, if it was just that easy, just do less, say no, put up boundaries, and then find balance. Like, what does balance actually mean? What does self-care really mean? We're kind of thrown these words, and then we feel like failures when we can't fit this ideal situation where we can be, amazing moms, amazing wives, amazing women, and shoulder the challenges of our job. And so ultimately, where most of us feel, and you can give me like a hand in the chat here, we actually feel less in control and more stressed in trying to become more balanced, because the checklist of things seems to only get bigger and bigger, right? It's like, oh, I'm supposed to work out and keep a gratitude journal and send thank you notes and cook dinner every night, right? This is what the challenge is for many of us. How many of you feel like this little girl who, like, you're walking uphill and you can't seem to like, once you get to the top and then there's like another hill, but your feet just keep digging in. This is where we feel, how many of us feel. And I'd love to hear from you. If you were to describe your current work-life balance, would you say you're like, I'm winning at this whole work and life thing? I'm guessing if you're here, there's like, it's not perfect all the time. Would you say you often struggle to juggle everything? Put that in context, whatever everything is for you. Or do you feel like you're on the brink of complete burnout? Where would you put yourself, 1, 2, or 3? And you can just put that in the chat or in the Q&A. I'm trying to pop
And
it
I'm
on
just
the
interrupting. No, the chat was locked. It just got reopened. So if you weren't seeing the messages, it just got opened up.
perfect. Okay,
We should be able to see it now, hopefully.
great. Now I can see the Q&A. Yes, awesome. Thank you, Taya. You guys, yeah, we're wearing all the hats. We like have to be this stellar professional while we're a wife and a mother and doing our community things. All right, awesome. So we're getting a lot of 2s. There's a few, and again, you can do this directly to me. You don't feel like you have to do it to everybody. Brink of burnout. When I often ask women in particular on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like, if I lost my job tomorrow, I'd actually be okay because it actually takes that much out of me, versus 1, like I'm living a yoga retreat every day. I see more and more consistently 6, 7, 8s, sometimes at 9 or 10. And this often fluctuates depending on the time of year. But if you can identify with that, I'm sure many of us can. Yeah, some of you are at 3s. Okay, so my goal here is to help give you a new perspective, of what this balance means. I want to have you look at how you navigate your everyday life, how you shoulder the demands of work, life, family, how we can do it differently, and actually take out that word balance and actually look for something different. I'm going to do I want to share with you a quick story here. So I started my professional career in New York City. This is 3 Park Avenue. This is where I went every morning. And those of you, I think most of us are here in New Jersey. So when I was in New Jersey, I did that commute to New York City every damn day. I was the first on the train, on the first train and the last train. And I would get into the office, first one in the office. It was an international communications firm. I quickly climbed the corporate ladder, managed almost 50 employees, a $60 million division, traveled the world, made great money. But I wasn't working out. And I was always one that did work out. I was an athlete. Like, it was important to me. But I stopped exercising, and typical, unfortunately, we hear the story too often where there came a point, typical corporate, bureaucracy, if you will, where there was a situation and I said, you know what? This is a moment in time where I can continue to do this grind and not feel fulfilled, not have the support of my leaders, not the support of my management, even though I'm going to bat for my staff every single day. I don't feel supported. I don't have the tools that I need to be able to shoulder the demands. And this was before kids or marriage, like it was just me. And so I very unexpectedly left this very, lucrative and a career trajectory that could potentially be pretty fantastic. The next morning, I said, you know what, after I left my job, which was hard on, that Monday morning, I said, you know what, I'm going to get back to the gym. And I walk into the gym, hadn't been in now probably 3 years consistently. And I walk into the gym and I'm starting it was a group exercise class. And not 15 minutes into the class, I start feeling lightheaded. And I start seeing stars, and I knew exactly what was happening. And I walk out, and outside of the door, I just dropped. And I woke up only to see the front desk girl with like a Gatorade over my hand or over my face, and EMTs just looking over me. And of course, I was, all I could think was, it was self-loathing. How could I let myself get this far? I used to be an athlete. It was a group exercise class. How did I let myself get to this point? I went to the doctor the next day, and I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroid hypothyroidism. So some of you may know, but regardless of that, I am convinced that it was the chronic stress of the demands of the job, not eating well, not eating properly. I was eating spoonfuls of peanut butter in between meetings, you know, and then eating a huge meal on the train and junk on the way home. And it was a wake-up call to me because I said, yes, it was successful. And yes, I was moving up the ladder and making good money, but at what cost? And if there's a question that you write down today, I want you to ask yourself, at what cost? At what cost can you sustain the lifestyle that you are right now of not making your health and well-being a priority, of not figuring out a way to take care of yourself while also being able to win at work? Because for us, I'm sure many of you would agree, our work actually gives us purpose. Because if you told me, you know, you have to give up your work, or you don't have, you know, just don't work as hard, that would actually take a piece of my identity. A huge part of my identity is my professional self. So that's the pull that many of us often find, is we actually identify by our career, or it gives us pride that we're hardworking, we're high achieving, we're hard chargers, we're goal driven. But we also want to be able to show up as an impactful mom, daughter, and so on. So I left this job, I passed out in the gym. And at that moment, I said, you know what? I want to make a difference. I knew I was always in athletics. And so I went on my entrepreneurial journey and I started my fitness company called Body Project. So I'm currently in Raleigh, North Carolina. We moved about 2.5 years ago, but I lived in New Jersey for 20 years. That's my connection with NJBIA. They were one of the first organizations when I started my business, and had my gym there in Robbinsville, New Jersey for about a little over 15 years. And I had conversations like this, thousands of them, over and over, with men and women who felt like on one side they were this success-driven professional. They knew how to be goal-driven and achieve in their job. Yet in their personal realm, there was this huge disconnect. They couldn't figure out how to shoulder it all. And all they wanted was just more effective, more efficient ways to really be able to do it all, not just to balance it, but to be able to shoulder it more effectively without the cost of their health, their well-being, important relationships, and other things that were coming at the cost of being stretched too thin. I sold my gym, and I then have been able to have, over the course, I do quite a bit of speaking and trainings in companies. I hold retreats, leadership retreats, because I realized when I started looking at all these conversations of these professional men and women, what was the difference between those that consistently struggled to find what we're calling balance, and those who were successful at winning at work, winning at life, and being able to be able to kind of move the needle toward even their personal goals. And so when I really started stripping down after these conversations and learning and studying about human behavior and our motivations, I realized, like, work-life balance, insert here, is bunk. It's BS. It's, I think a few said it, it's hard to maintain. So why do we keep striving for something that's like a ghost? Like, we get it for a little bit, we hold on to it, and then we lose it. And most of us, I'm gathering, most of us actually keep saying something to ourselves like, why can't I just be motivated to, insert here, exercise, take more time off, read more, spend more time with my family, meaningful time, right? There's a motivation factor that we keep kind of blaming ourselves for, like, why can't I just self-motivate? Why can't I figure it out? I hear this all the time. I'm a smart woman. I'm a smart man. Why can't I figure this part of my life out? And I'm going to demonstrate something that I think will give a good visual. So I call this, it's kind of the picture. I actually am going to show you something on a silver platter and hope I don't spill anything. Okay. So I want you to have this visual. I have 4 cups here. And these 4 cups represent 4 main parts of our life. Okay. We have our work. I know they're clear. We have our health cup. We have our family cup, and we have our cup for others. You can put community in here. I think somebody mentioned that you're a pastor of a church, and a few others were saying, you're involved in the community. So these are kind of the buckets, the cups of our life. Okay. Each of us on any given day is given a defined pitcher of energy, right? So this pitcher represents the amount of mental, physical, emotional energy that we have to expend into these cups. So here's what most of us are doing. Most of us, I mean, and we're all here as part of a professional organization, so I'm assuming that many of you work hard. So we're pouring, again, I'm going to hope not to spill here, and we fill our work cup pretty much to the brim, okay? And then we have our family cup, whether it's aging parents, your kids, your spouse. So we pour a ton into our family. And then we pour a little bit into maybe others, our friends, our community. Okay. So we've poured all of our energy into other people, into our family, and into our work. And then we wonder why we don't have the energy or the wherewithal or the willpower or the discipline to go exercise or to make good choices or to sleep more, because we have nothing left to give. We have nothing left. That's why we're unmotivated. That's why we feel stuck. So until we start shifting and create a different method for how we pour into these cups, we will continue to be stuck. We will be on the brink of burnout, literally because you have nothing else to expend. You cannot flip a switch of motivation and hope and wish something will change. This is why when we try to take on new habits, they don't last long, because we're trying to pour from an empty pitcher. So that's the visual I want you to have as we go through. Now, I'm sure we all understand this in logic, but I want to, kind of the takeaway here today is I want you to really rethink, stop chasing balance. Stop saying things like, I just need to find better balance. What does that mean? Most of us don't know what that looks like. It doesn't mean that every cup has the same amount of water every day. Okay. What I encourage you instead is to shift your paradigm, to shift your mindset, and think about starting to chase momentum. As success-driven, goal-driven individuals, there is nothing we hate more than feeling stuck. Would we agree? Right? We hate the feeling of treading water. We hate the feeling like we're climbing up a slippery pole, getting nowhere, like that little girl climbing up the sand. We get really frustrated at the end of the day when we were so busy, but we felt like we weren't productive, like we didn't move the needle in a meaningful way, whether it's professionally toward those professional things we have to do on the to-do list, or the personal things, the personal goals that we keep telling ourselves we're going to do and we don't. The thing is with momentum, and why this idea of momentum is so powerful to me, is because once we accept that momentum is sometimes fast, it's sometimes slow, but it's moving forward nonetheless. So it's sort of like this roller coaster. Like sometimes you're on the high and you're like, man, I'm winning every day. I'm getting my workouts in. I feel like a great leader. I'm making strides in my business. Like we all have those days, those shining moments. But then we end up in this pit and we stick there instead of looking for ways to maintain momentum. And the essence of momentum, and I hope you guys can identify with this, right? It's like every day is not going to be perfect. We're not going to be hard charging every day. But if we start looking for momentum, that's when we have that sense of balance, if you will, like we can navigate and shoulder those challenges in a healthier, more productive, more purposeful way. How do you maintain momentum? It's this word, like the linchpin or like the kindling to the fire of momentum is a word you might not like. Once I say it, you'll probably be like, oh yeah, that's it. Like it's not exercise. It's not meditation. It's not setting goals even. It's productivity. Like I said earlier, you can disagree with me, but I have a sense that at the end of every day, when you're laying in bed The things that are ruminating are things that you feel like you're stuck in, or you're not moving forward, or like, I gotta do that. You're not ruminating over the chocolate cake that you ate at dinner time, right? When we feel productive at the end of the day, it feeds our confidence, feeds our purpose, and it makes us feel like we're moving toward the goals and things that we want and desire. So here's my goal for the rest of our time here is I actually want to not just talk in theory, I want to give you a really strategic way to model your day. Now, I'm going to do this one day at a time. So our goal is literally, I want to teach you how to win your day, because if you can win the day and you start stacking more days that you win, that's momentum over the long term. It's almost like if I said, like, it's like trying to overhaul your entire diet instead of saying, let's actually just start with your breakfast and let's really understand what a good solid breakfast is. And then you win that and you do that every day. And that sets the tone for the other meals through the day, right? So I don't want to talk in like, how do you completely change your lifestyle? Because really, if we were to break it down, the best gift I can give you today, the best coaching advice I can give you is how to win the day. And every day that you win, that you stack upon each other, that's when a year from now, you'll look back and you'll say like, wow, I really did make progress. I got closer to my goals. I feel less stressed. I feel healthier. And that, we're actually on momentum and we've not chased balance. Okay. So sound good? So again, we're doing this in the context of the day. So our goal is to win the day. And your starting point for this, before we talk about the strategic things, is you need to create a success filter. Okay. So most of us, here, I'm going to start with a story. I think it was the US Olympic team, rowing team. Their goal was to win the Olympics. I mean, what team doesn't want to win the Olympics, right? So they were going to the Olympics. And of course, that's the outcome they desire. They want a gold medal in the Olympics. But they backtracked and they said, but how are we going to win? And how they're going to win is to make their boat go faster. And so everything that they did, from how they designed their practices, how they rested and recovered, the coaches that they brought in, the mental exercises that the athletes would do, everything went through the filter of, will this make the boat go faster? If yes, then okay, we will do that action, activity, what have you. If no, it won't really impact the boat going faster, then no, it's probably not worth our time. There's a story of one of the athletes who, he was planning to go out to go drink with his buddies or something in the middle of training. And simply by asking, but will my choice, will my decision make the boat go faster? Asking that question led to a no, it will not help the boat go faster because tomorrow I'm going to be tired and that's not going to help. That then framed his decision to say, you know what? Nope, I'm going to pass on drinking with my friends tonight because it's not going to make the boat go faster. So here's the thing. Most of us need a different motivator. Most of us are saying things like, I want to lose weight. I want to, achieve something that is an outcome, but it's actually not intrinsically motivating. So a story of a client I'm working with, her name's April. And, she was like, we needed to come up with a success filter. So every decision that she made through the day, personally, when it came to her personal life, when it came to her professional life, what was her big motivating factor? What did she want more than anything? And she happens to own a marketing company. And she said it was this big goal. And she said, my goal is to be able to work with or to feature every marketing company in her state. She's in California. She said in her county. She wanted to be the person that these clients went to, that these marketing companies would come to for her consulting. Now, this was big. There's hundreds, if not thousands, in her county of marketing agencies and so on. Why is this important? Because that was so important to her. That's so motivating for her. When she thinks about not getting up out of bed to go work out and start her day, she can ask herself, will this get me to every marketing agency in my county? No or yes? Because if she stays in bed, she knows she's not going to be as productive. She's not going to be as focused for the day, because the way she starts her day really sets the tone for how she shows up in her work and how productive she is. So that gets her out of bed. If her goal was, oh, I have to lose weight, and then, that morning where she's so tired, she says, oh, I'll just start tomorrow. The motivator isn't big enough for her to compel her to change any of her behaviors or to do things that may feel uncomfortable. So think about, what is your boat go faster success filter? Because now you can use that in your professional realm, who you speak to, what conferences you decide to go to, what jobs or projects you take on, depending on your role, right? You attach those motivators, but also in your personal and professional realm, when you attach that big motivator, will it help me get to that goal? This could also be, I always encourage it. Maybe it's not a professional goal or a financial goal as a big one. It can also be, what's the kind of person that you want to be? So it's sort of like a fill in the blank. I want to be a person who shows up for herself like she shows up for others. Okay. So now when I want to oversleep in the morning because I'm so tired, and I'm laying there and I'm like, do I work out or do I not work out? I can say, but is that version, that person who shows up for herself, is she sleeping in because she's not motivated to go exercise? No, I am the kind of person who shows up for herself because you do the same thing for someone else. So I hope that gives you some examples, but this is a key foundational question for you to really get clear on, that will drive your momentum really in all those important facets of your life, in all 4 buckets. Okay. Questions, feel free to pop them in, or thoughts or things that you might want to add in. Okay. So now let's go to like the tactical. So here's the tactical. When we're looking at winning the day, it starts with what I call anchoring your day. I'm going to share with you the morning anchor, but I also encourage that you do this in the afternoon or in the evening as well. So you anchor your day, because we know that most of us have control over the first hour or so of our day and the last hour or so of our day. Okay. Everything in between, what's the saying? It's like man plans and God laughs, right? So there's so many factors that can change the middle of the day, but a stress management technique will help you manage the middle part of the day if you've anchored your morning and your night. Now, this is not an elaborate morning routine, but this is absolutely a simple way for you to start your day and set the tone. So I call it the AM3. These are 3 actions that you take, and frankly, they should not take more than 30 minutes to an hour. 3 actions that you can take every morning that set the tone for the day, that physically get you ready and prepared so that you feel mentally ready. You feel like there's a mental endurance and tenacity and focus so that you can be productive. I encourage these 3 things to be: 1, physical. When I say exercise, this is interesting. One of the trainings I do is, how powerful words are. Some of us hear exercise and we imagine that it needs to look like, or like it has to look like, an hour of like drenched exercise, and you have to be sore and you have to do this intense bout of exercise. And simply because the word we're using insinuates or gives us a picture of what it looks like, we end up doing nothing at all. So physical meaning like movement, workout, lifting weights. Like, find a word that when you wake up, it actually is something that you'll go and do. So a lot of my clients, some of them, depending on their schedule, this might actually be a more formal, like they go to the gym or they have a home gym and they do a strength training program. Now, I think that's fantastic. But again, I want you to set you up for success. So this simply could be the 20-minute walk with your dog. You are physically doing something to raise your mental and physical awareness, get the blood flowing, but this physical is huge. 2, do something intellectual. Maybe it's a self-guided meditation. Maybe you pray, maybe you read something. I love listening to, maybe it's a podcast or something that intellectually stimulates you and gets you excited, or just kind of brings you to a place to be like, okay, I'm ready to start the day. That's a lot of my clients will do meditation in the morning or some form of it. And that really mentally prepares them for the day. The third that I encourage here is actually something that will assist your productivity for the day. Most of us have a to-do list. I am going to encourage you. It'll be a fight for me to say, don't have a to-do list. I've got a to-do list. But the difference is daily is I actually create my done list. At the beginning of the day, I say, what are the 2 to 3 actions, tasks that I need to accomplish that will make me feel like I had a productive day? Remember, I went back to, right? We talked about, we love the feeling of productivity, not checking off the endless list of busy work on our to-do list, but the 2 to 3 things. And maybe if it's one, it could be one thing, depending on how much time it's going to require you. What will, at the end of the day, make you feel like, yes, I won the day because I checked this off? This requires, actually, all 3 of these require a consistent, honest conversation with yourself, as if you're like outside of yourself having a conversation. Tara, you're right. The done list really shifted it for me because the to-do list actually, we're in a constant state of failure until we like complete the to-do list. And if you're like me, a procrastination technique I use is like, well, let me refresh the to-do list and write it on a new sheet. And I'm in this constant state of failure because the to-do list is never done. Now I can keep my running list of things that I need to do, but if I transfer the top 2 and I'm very discerning with what 1, 2, 3 things for the day will make me feel like I'm accomplished and productive, because here's what happens. When I feel productive, I'm more likely to exercise. I'm more likely to make better food choices. I'm more likely to sleep better. I'm more likely to be a little bit better of a version of myself to my kids and my husband. So this is so important and really an under talked about point of well-being is we need to feel productive, but you have to be really discerning about what goals you're setting for the day. Most of us aren't hitting goals because the goals or the task that we're setting either require more time than we think they do. So I always say, like, okay, if I think that this project is going to take an hour, I actually estimate 3 to 5 times longer, because inevitably there will be interruptions. So it helps me with my time management and my expectation management, because at the end of the day, I would rather knock off 1 or 2 really solid actions versus 20 things that actually really don't move the needle for me. Okay, so I hope that this is helpful. This is huge. This anchors your day. Now, I'm going to share with you a story of one of my clients. His name is Larry, and we were just working through. For months, we were helping him get his cadence around working from home. He worked in the city for 20 years, working from home. Now he's back in the city. He's a CFO of a commercial lending company, and he's like, Lindsay, we're talking about. He said, Lindsay, here's the thing, like I have to, I'm completely off, because what was working when I worked at home, where I could wake up, I could work out for 30 minutes, I could do my 15 minutes of meditation, and then I could get ready for the workday, do my to-do list or my done list and get ready for the workday. And he said, but what I'm finding is I'm lacking sleep. And so I'm sleeping in, and then I don't do any of those things. And then I feel like a failure all day long. I'm not as productive. I'm tired through the day. You keep hearing this word productivity, right? So I said, Larry, why don't we do this? What if we created an A day and a B day? Because a lot of us, whether we want to admit it or not, our default is an all or nothing mindset. So if I can't do a 1-hour workout, so if we go back to this AM3, and your ideal morning AM3 is to do a 45-minute workout, meditate for 15 minutes, and then spend 10 minutes writing your productivity list for the day, that's your A day. That's like when I get 8 hours of sleep, when I feel like I can have the time to be able to do that. Now, ideally, we have 80% of our time, we are having A days. But the reality is that if we said it's an A day or nothing, it's a perfect day or nothing, and then we're off the rails, what if we came up, it's sort of like a backup plan, like a 2.0. What if we created a B day? And you have a very objective, see, what I like to do is how do we take the chatter in our mind that usually takes us to a place that doesn't serve us? How can we create something objective that we can work with? And so we said we used his sleep because he said a linchpin is if I know myself, Larry says, I know myself, if I don't get 8 hours of sleep, it really impacts the rest of that day. So if he had to work late or if he didn't have a good night's rest, instead of laying in bed being like, well, I should give myself permission to just sleep in, I'll just today. And then he doesn't do any of that AM3, which is critical to his productivity and feeling confident at the end of the day. He was just going to scratch it. And I said, why don't we create a B day? And your B day is Larry wakes up and says, you know what? I didn't get my 8 hours last night. I'm going to sleep an additional hour. But instead of doing 30 minutes of workout, 15 minutes of meditation, and my productivity list, I'm going to do a 15-minute walk around the block or on the treadmill. I'm going to do a 5-minute meditation, and I still need to do my productivity list. So he's taken his 45-minute morning routine, he's condensed it to say 20 minutes, but he's still getting the feeling, he's still setting the tone for the day that will actually still keep him on pace for a productive day. And it'll get him out of that mental tailspin of, well, I didn't do my workout again today. Do we see where this is starting to, like, the push and pull? Like, it has nothing to do with me giving you workouts or meal plans. It's how are we creating a cadence or a rhythm to our days that as we stack them, see if Larry gets more A days than B days, at the end of 1 year, he's going to be closer to that success filter that he's determined. He's going to show up as a better father, and likewise, right? So I hope that this is helpful. So think about creating that A day. That's like your ideal. And then your B day. And it takes all of that argument in your mind kind of away. It's really just kind of this simple thing. It's that all or nothing mindset that puts us into a tailspin. Okay, so we've got our morning that really anchors our day. So if we're thinking about winning the day, we have our morning. Okay, now we're getting in the car or we're opening up the laptop and the day begins. Okay, this is where energy management, when it comes to balance, well-being, I consider energy management. We can do a whole training on this. This is more important than stress management. This is more important than time management, because when you manage your energy, stress management and time management end up following suit. So I'm going to give you two examples, two kind of tactical ways that you can manage your energy, because this really seeps into a lot of different places. The first one is, so this is my little girl, Lydia. This picture is from her first birthday. And Lydia, who's just turned 7, she is generally this happy child. Now, I know Betty, you're on, and I think your granddaughter is just about this age right now. And they're happy until they're not. Okay. So this is Lydia, in theory, a few minutes later. And I want to share a story. Once she was in her high chair and I'm across the kitchen cooking and my hands are dirty, and she finishes her meal and she starts yelling to me, Mama, I'm done. Mama, I'm done. And I said, Lydia, I'll be right there. Hold on. And we know this in toddlers, where we see it's like this slow progression of like, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm not fine, I'm not fine, until it turns into a complete tantrum. Okay. So while she's in this tantrum, strapped into her high chair, and I'm yelling at her across the room, being like, calm down, I'll be right there. Don't cry. Don't judge my parenting skills here. But, I'm yelling at her as if my words are going to help her emotionally calm down. I get my hands clean, I walk over, and we know this as parents that that can be extremely emotional. Our emotions rise with it. And I unstrap her and I take her out of the high chair and I simply walked her outside. I didn't say anything. I did nothing else, but I moved her outside. And almost instantly, her complete emotional state changed. And so what can we learn from this? Tell me that you do not have moments during the day when you feel like you're having a tantrum inside. You get an email from a colleague, something didn't go your way. You had a plan and it went off kilter. Like, we know we have these moments over the course of the day where all we want to do is throw a tantrum, and we're throwing a tantrum inside. And it usually looks like overeating, eating junk food, not sleeping, like Netflixing and not doing productive things. That's our form. I call it like the adult temper tantrum. Okay. But we can't sit at our computer, or we can't just sit and tell ourselves, don't stress, Lindsay. Like, why are you getting so upset about this? Like, just find balance, just figure it out. Words alone will not change that mental state. There's one thing you write down is change your physical state to change your mental state. When I took Lydia and just simply moved her outside, her mental and emotional demeanor completely changed. This is a stretch management technique. This, for me, actually changed my perspective on how I look at exercise and movement, because when I connect movement and exercise, not with weight loss, not with something aesthetic, which nothing's wrong with that. But I'm a different motivator is I want to feel mentally in control. I want to feel emotionally more sound and not as heightened emotions about things. And so if I simply move my body regularly, or in a moment to moment point of tension where I'm at my laptop frustrated or I can't focus, I can simply walk outside, take some deep breaths. I can go make myself a cup of coffee or tea. Just moving away for even a short amount of time will bring us back and return us to a more positive mental state. This is huge because what happens is over time, these are compiling. Okay. So change your mental state. Think about, little Lydia in her thing.
And
Another
I
thing
hate
you
to
can
interrupt you, Lindsay, but we do want to make sure we have time for Q&A. So I don't know if you want
Yes.
to wrap it up, and then we'll ask a couple of Q&As.
Perfect. Absolutely. I've got two more. And then we'll Q&A. So if you want to have questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and we can do these. So waffle your time. This is one of my favorite sayings is men are like waffles, women are like spaghetti. And it's a generality, but something that we often do, like men, you can say, hey, go take the garbage out. And that's all they do is they do the one thing and then they move on to the next task. And they're actually tend to be more skilled at compartmentalizing thoughts, emotions, and tasks. Women, we're taking out the trash and we're like, what's for dinner? Oh my gosh, can you believe she said that? What about the reports? All these things. What about mom? What do I have to do? Right? And so when we can guard our time, I call it waffling our time, where you allocate and you say, that I'm going to take care of later, or right now I'm going to be present with this. This helps put up guardrails around our time. And that manages our energy because we're not expending it into those challenging, other things that are expending our energy. I'll wrap it up with the final thing, the final sort of tip that I have to win the day. I always get this wrong, but if a plane is taking off in New York and if they're just 1 degree off course on their way to Los Angeles, 1 degree, if that pilot does not course correct, they will end up in Alaska. How many of us are in Alaska right now and our destination was Los Angeles? We wake up one morning, 20, 30 years down the road, and we're like, how did I gain all this weight? How am I so unhappy? How do I not feel like I'm moving toward my goals? How am I not having the job that I want? And it's these tiny little course corrections on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. And a great way to do this is what I call aim for center. Think of a bullet or a dartboard. Center is where you're at your best. It's where you feel you're focused, you're productive, you're showing up as the best version of yourself in all ways of your life. 2 to 3 things that you can do when you are veering off course. You have to identify it, of course. And usually it's interesting, those things you did in your morning routine, movement, something intellectual, sometimes it's calling a friend or a coach. This is why the people around us are so important. What will take you, right? Those rings outside of our bullseye are all the things that pull us away from our best. All those stressors. how do we, as quickly as possible, get back to center? And using something like those AM3 tactics will help you get back to that middle so that you don't find yourself 5 days, or 5 months, 5 years later, almost as somebody that you don't want to be. So here's kind of a review. Now, this is a day-to-day. There's lots of strategies and techniques. I know Megan has a question here, time management tools that you recommend. There's a couple great, well, here's what I typically do with clients is I have them do a time audit first. So they're really annoying, if we're being honest. Has anybody done a time audit before? No. But a time, have you, Lorena? Yeah. Where you basically kind of there's different apps that you can use, or you keep a list next to or pad next to your desk, and you basically document or audit the time that you're spending on different tasks. You also want to make note of when you're distracted. So if you're constantly going back and checking email, you were spending, 20 minutes on a project, going back to email. So what that then does is that you can kind of bucket your tasks and say, where are the inefficiencies? And then you can kind of model your work that way. Another time management tool that I use, I train this with my clients, is take a Sunday. I usually like Sundays or maybe Friday before the end of the week, and do your to-do list. I call it a brain dump, like just brain dump everything. I do it in categories. So I own my own business. So it's usually in categories of like client management, sales, marketing. Then I have my personal things I need to do for the family, but they're kind of in these categories. Now I have all the things I need to do. And then I look at my week across the board and I say, based on my real life schedule, where can I then kind of plug those tasks on the calendar? And I generally suggest front loading your week and then leaving a little space open on your Thursdays and Fridays. This isn't always ideal, but it allows for some overflow if you need to move over. This goes back to waffling your time as best you can. Try to chunk activities that are similar. So for me, again, everybody's work dynamic is different, but I try to block most of my calls later in the week and leave my Mondays and Tuesdays open for more creative business building activities. So now you don't feel as disjointed. So if you're kind of bulking as best you can, create those waffles, those compartments for your time. This takes a lot of practice and work. I hope that's helpful, Megan, but those are some. Also know yourself. I think actually we were talking, was it Megan and Betty? We were saying beforehand, like, or no, Lorena, you said I'm a late, like I don't start my day until 10.
Yeah.
If one thing we need to just have an honest conversation with ourselves is like, stop trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Lorena, if you are most productive, most creative, most genius between, 10 and 1 in the afternoon, like make that the time. Again, I realize it's not that simple in the dynamics of business and demands, but as best you can, use that time and guard that time for those more creative activities. Don't make yourself a morning person if you've tried it and it's not working, right? Work with your rhythms. If you're a late night person and that's when you can get undistracted work done, embrace it. And then just know you have to buffer that in the morning. Lorena, I love that you actually started the conversation with that, because I think that's where many of us feel like it needs to look a certain way. And then we like try to shed.
I actually just recently edited my email signature to literally say my working hours may not be your working hours. Don't feel like you need to respond, because there is a sense of, you're emailing me at 2 a.m. This must be important. Oh my God, how stressed are you that you're not working? When in reality, they don't realize that I sleep in until 10. I stop working at 2, hang out with my son and my friends until 6, 6:30, have dinner, then come back to work. So my workday doesn't look, and I have the privilege. I mean, I have the privilege of not having that schedule, but I think it's important for us to accept that. And you know what? I wish I had accepted it a long time ago, because I'm so happy for it.
And communicating it. This actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump to the end here, is it's a nice way to tie this up. I'm showing this New York picture again because I don't want anybody else to have that New York pass out in the gym moment. Like that was burnout at its best. I physically manifested, if you will. I physically created, the result that was the cost of chronic stress, thinking like, oh, I'm young, I can just do it later, or like I can put it off, right? Before we know it, we're 40, we're 50, we're 60. I don't want you to have a New York moment. I am honestly also so passionate. See, if my business, if my company, I don't know how many of you are leaders or managers here, but see, if my leadership in my company, they sent me to sales trainings and management trainings, but what they didn't really give me was any tools to be able to shoulder the stressors of communication. So if I had a session or a training or a personal professional development session on, okay, so Lorena, yeah, your best working hours are between this time, but how do you communicate that with your clients, with your coworkers to create now, okay, Lorena, I know she's not going to get back to me until 10 a.m. Brilliant. Write it on your email. Nobody's going to get mad at you because it's been clearly communicated. So I don't want you to have the moment. And if you are a leader, or this is fun even to do, and I can wrap up here with one final note. This is my favorite communication kind of team building activity. Most of us get frustrated because of those communication gaps that we have. You guys have been just so great to have me. I just thought if this is something I think would be, I do this in all my trainings. I've done it for 15 years. It gets your team talking. You could do it with your family. I would still download it, even if you're a solopreneur. Again, I'm not sure exactly the dynamic of who's here. Do this in your next team meeting. It takes 15 minutes. I walk you through literally the script of what to say. But when we can identify and understand ourselves, have you guys ever done like a DISC assessment or anything? Like when we understand ourselves better, then we can understand others on our team, our clients. Now we can adjust our communication. And what happens is I feel more confident. I don't feel like imposter syndrome, or I don't feel like I have to be somebody else. I can be productive. When I'm productive and feel like I can communicate effectively, you think I'm going to be working out better and sleeping better and making better food choices? Probably. So I hope I've kind of connected that circle of it's not just about what you eat and, when you're exercising for well-being and mental health. Our jobs are so important to us. It's really about just having those honest conversations, having some new tools, and hopefully I've given you a new perspective today on, instead of looking for balance, let's look for how we can keep momentum. And I hope that this was helpful. I would love for, feel free to reach out. I do free strategy calls for individual coaching, as well as team trainings, team leadership development trainings. So any other questions? I don't
No,
know if
I
I
was
can
going to
really.
share two tidbits that you mentioned that I think are super important. And while I do love the send feature from Outlook, I get busy, I forget, and I'm just like sending it out. So I actually
I
have
love that, Jennifer. That's actually a great tip.
I have an auto reply on all my email accounts that literally says I'm checking emails at these times of days. That's it. I don't check my email outside of those blocks of hours. If it's urgent, you're going to have to call me. You're going to have to text me because I'm not going to check it and I'm not going to get back to you until the next block. People are sometimes annoyed by it, but all my clients, I let them know up front. I only check emails as many times a day. I only work on your account this many times. And you might get emails from me at random times. It's just because of the way I work, not expecting a phone call back. And I think that is super huge when you're communicating with the team. So I thought
That's the energetic, like when
yeah,
you say, I need to pour into my cup first, meaning I need to guard my
yep,
time. I
yep.
need to do what I need to do so that when I do have those calls with you, I'm showing up as my best. I'm able to give you my best. Those are those like promises we have to keep to ourselves. Most of us, we aren't confident deep down, or we're like, we've lost trust with ourselves. We don't know our self-worth. Why? Because we keep making promises to ourselves that we don't meet.
Yeah.
So we keep saying, I'm going to start working out tomorrow, and then we don't work out tomorrow because we didn't have other strategies in place, because we think, it has to look different. And if we just start keeping those promises and communicating that with those around us, man, that's the key to confidence, truly.
Totally. I appreciate your talk today. It was fantastic. I know folks got a lot out of it. We actually kept the
Thank
momentum
you, everybody.
talking about the audience. We didn't lose anyone until, now that it's 11 o'clock. I appreciate all of you guys for joining us. Please make sure you check out on the website. We'll be sure to follow up so that you know when our next event is coming up. And we are thrilled that you were happy to have this awesome tidbits that you shared. So this was really, really great.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you want to share before we log off, or are we good? I will. Oh, she's good. We're good. All right. Well, thank you again, guys. We'll make sure we put the link on for the next event. Take care and have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.